Book 101 is about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book, The Little Guide to Getting Your Journal Article Published. No other than Mr. John Bond.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I reviewed some of your episodes. I was very intrigued, but I also looked at your Food 101 podcast. So I'm a big fan of eating, although I don't have any gifts with cooking, but I'm pleased to be a guest here today. Thank you very much.
Mr. John Bond, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, what inspired you to write The Little Guide to Getting Your Journal Article Published?
I've been involved in books and the library and publishing and writing for my whole life. And as you could see by my background, I'm a fan of books in every way, digital as well as paper. And I have worked in publishing for about 30 years. And then about 10 years ago, I went into being a publishing consultant. And I work with authors or publishers or associations on getting great content created and delivering great content. So, about 3 years ago, I started to write a series of books. They're with Roman and Littlefield, but now I'm pleased to say that they're with Bloomsbury Publishing. Very proud of that. The series is The Little Guide. And the first one that you see on the screen right now is The Little Guide to Getting Your Journal Article Published. But also in the series is The Little Guide to Getting Your Book Published and The Little Guide to Giving a Poster Presentation. All three of them came about because I would speak to many people and many groups over getting published. It's a universal feeling of wanting to tell a story or provide information or provide knowledge. So I enjoyed those conversations so much. I wanted to turn them into a series of books, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk to you and your audience today about sharing that information with others.
So, Mr. John, again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you describe the biggest challenges early career researcher face when trying to publish their first journal article?
It's a great question. I would say very early on, you're juggling many things: education, your personal life, trying to think about your career and a job and what's the best fit for you. Then, as you get into your career, you may have requirements or demands or desires to get published. And sometimes it'll simply be a poster presentation as your first step in on the journey of scholarly communication. But other times you'll want to move towards a journal article in a peer review academic publication. The most important thing as you start your career is to think about it as a long game, to think about it in the long run, and not just, I want to get one article published one time in order to satisfy maybe a job requirement or an advancement requirement. Think about your entire career and how you're going to be sharing your research and your insights and your thoughts with the public. And from that point of view, you're going to want quality to be your guide in all the work you do in your research or in your writing. So don't think of it as simply something to check off the list at the beginning. Think of it as laying the groundwork for a long career. Start out by thinking about the research you've done and how it adds to the literature and how it makes your area or subject matter advanced further along the path of its development. Think about how you want to communicate with your readership and your colleagues and your the people that are in your subject area or field, and then start to think about creating that writing and sharing with others. First, with your friends and colleagues and peer reviewers, before you ever consider sending it into a journal. So, my first suggestion is really thinking about your scholarly communication as a long journey and letting quality be your guide.
Beautifully articulated, Mr. John. Very well said. So, how did you decide on the simple steps format for this guide?
The most important thing, whatever your writing format is, and whether it's a journal article or publishing a book, giving a poster presentation, is to really know your target audience, which may seem obvious to start, but you really want to know the group that you're writing towards and their level of knowledge in that area already and their areas of interest. But then you're going to want to know the publisher, but more specifically the journal and what their interests are. So many times people may write a manuscript of an article and then start to look for a journal to apply it to. First of all, you should know right off the bat of the major journals in your area and which ones are the best fit for your publication. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to the publisher or the journal website and look at their information for authors and more about what they're publishing. Really dive into the information for authors to understand their wants and needs, and then look at the articles that they currently are publishing. I really suggest everybody become a fan of those journals or those publishers. So it's not that you're trying to get something published, you're working together with a journal or publisher to educate those readers or inform those readers or to work with that publisher to meet their mission. So really become a fan and start to understand that journal. And then after you've gone through the information for authors, really work at meeting the exact requirements or specifications of that particular journal. Don't just say it's in this format. They may want it in this format, but I already have it on this format. So really work and tailor it towards that specific publication.
Totally agree, Mr. John. So, which part of the publication process do you think is the most overlooked by authors?
The most what?
Overlook process.
Well, I divide the publication process up into several parts. One is all the thinking area up front, the idea formulation, the research, and the work that you do before you ever put pen to paper or fingers to a keyboard. The second part is the mechanics, and I don't want to make that sound easy, the mechanics of actually creating the content. The third part is finding a target publisher. And the fourth part, although people don't think about this that often, is promoting and marketing the article once it's published and also promoting you as a career researcher and a career writer. So I would say of those parts, really the beginning part is really the key thing, to start with a great idea, to start with your solid research and solid foundation, going to your colleagues, as I said, and going to your friends and having them review the drafts and being very open to feedback. All that work done early on pays tremendous dividends when it comes down to finally writing and editing that first draft and then coming up with the final draft. And then, of course, as I said, finding the right publisher is very important. But I want to emphasize, although this will surprise many people, the importance when you do get published of promoting that work, whether it's through a social media channel such as LinkedIn or as YouTube, Daniel, with YouTube, or whether it's on X or Twitter. You're going to want to find where your audience is and make sure you understand and know about it. And there are a lot of great academic social media sites as well that you should be able to call on when promoting your work.
So, Mr. John, in your opinion, what makes a journal article stand out to editors and reviewers?
I'm going to keep hitting on the same points. One is that you know the journal you're sending to and you understand what their mission is, what their vision statement is, what they're looking for in content. I use an analogy from TV. And it's this. Let's say I wanted to create a cooking program and I
Yes.
pitched it and I want to pitch it to a TV show, a TV channel. And I go to ESPN, which is a sports network in the United States and internationally. If I go and pitch my cooking show to ESPN and get rejected, nothing's wrong with my work and nothing's wrong with my idea. What's wrong with is my choice of who I pitched it to. And so you're going to want to start out by knowing that journal's mission statement and is exactly who they're geared towards and what they're looking for. The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have something unique of interest to say to the field, that you're not just going over the same grounds as other articles or other works that are out there. You're looking to advance the ball in your field and to add to the scholarly literature in your area.
Very well said, Mr. John. Very well said. So, could you walk us through the most common mistakes authors make when submitting a manuscript?
Yes, several I've mentioned. Submitting to the wrong journal, not being a fan, not knowing what they're looking for, are at the start of it. The second one is being very shy with your writing rather, and that means being concerned over whether it's good enough, and therefore not sharing it with colleagues and friends. You have to develop long term a slightly tough skin to going out and sharing with others, particularly knowledgeable people in your area. You're going to want to show it to them well before you ever submit to the journal so you understand what people have to say. Now, if you share it with 5 people and all 5 suggest you change something, you should probably really consider that idea. But if only one person suggests something, you should think about it. But if it doesn't fit your vision of the article, then maybe that's not necessary for you to change in your manuscript. So being open to approaching people and having them read your material. The next is ensuring that you fit within the information for authors or guidelines for authors when it comes down to the maximum word count, the maximum page count, the number of tables that are available, the format of references. So everything they require, you really have to be 100% in sync with and not deviate from the least. The next one is really patience. Everybody would like to send it in through the peer review system for a journal and get an email 2 days later and said, this is the greatest thing ever, and we're going to publish it within a week, but that's totally unrealistic. Remember, they have a series of volunteer peer reviewers on their end that they're going to ask to review your work, and all those people all have day jobs and careers. So it should take maybe 60 to 90 days for you to hear back a verdict, but it's not uncommon for it to take longer. So I highly suggest you have a little bit of patience and just move on to a different writing project while you're waiting to hear. And then finally, the 3 possible answers or verdicts on your manuscript might be: accept, great news, thumbs up, you're ready to go; reject, keep a stiff upper lip and consider whether you want to submit to others; or the most likely one is revise. And it could be minor revisions or major revisions. When you get those comments back, either for revise or reject, sit down, read them, put them aside for one day, and then go and read them again with an open mind. Don't become defensive. Don't send an email off to the journal telling you why you're right and they're wrong, or you already did what they suggested. Think about whether they add real value to your work and consider making those changes. If you think they may not be correct, then go to a colleague, mostly a senior colleague, ask them to read your work, look at the revision comments, and then see if they feel it has merit and would improve the product, improve the manuscript. If you do want to go back to the same journal with the revised version, but you're not going to make all the changes, go back with a neutral toned, even email that said, Out of the 20 suggestions, I've made these 15. These other 5 I've chosen not to make. And here's my even handed factual reason why these are not going to be made, because I think it's better off the way it is. Do not be argumentative, do not be accusatory. So they would be the things I'd say to avoid the major mistakes when writing a journal article and submitting it.
So, Mr. John, you mentioned time management in the book. How can busy academics prioritize writing and publishing?
Yes, time management and having a plan become very important. Many times people will just think, I know what I have to do, and I have to find time in my already busy schedule, like putting a size 11 foot in a size 9 shoe. You really have to make the time and be willing to schedule it and have a plan as to what you're going to do. So the people that say, I'm going to block out all of Tuesday and write all of Tuesday, it is unrealistic. Life's going to intervene. Somebody's going to come in with an emergency, or there's going to be an email. So I would suggest you block out smaller increments where you say exact things that you're going to accomplish. So don't say on Tuesday from 3 to 4, I'm going to research. I'm going to do research. You're going to say on 3 to 4 on Tuesday, I'm going to log on to the library system and research these particular journals or database for a literature review for my my manuscript. So be very, very specific. Put a long-term schedule for creating the article, but also give yourself a little grace. Don't be so tight in how it has to be done that it's unrealistic that you're not going to miss a day or two. Leave yourself some grace in that when you do miss that day, you don't beat yourself up and feel everything's behind schedule now. Try to find other times to work on that material. People will always find time to sleep and always find time to eat. Your academic writing career is just as important to many of your other activities in life. So try to see the priorities of it, whether in a quiet space like a library or your office, or at home where you can set aside a quiet space. But try to find a little time each week or each day to dedicate towards specific tasks by creating a plan with a timeline.
So, what advice do you give for writing a compelling introduction and conclusion, Mr. John?
I usually suggest that you draft uh, all of the sections that are in the middle first. So go through and draft everything that's in the center of the publication, in the center of the manuscript, rather, dealing with materials and methods, your approach to it, the results that you may have. But I suggest leaving introduction and conclusion till the very end, because they are truly a introduction and summary of what you accomplished. So I would suggest leaving them towards the end. Remember, when writing those, brief is better than wordy. Nobody ever said, I wish that journal article was longer. So always be to the point and to be brief. I would also suggest you be open to the idea of storytelling. Storytelling, of course, seems to bring up a novel or a short story or something that doesn't really fit with academic journal writing. But at the end of the day, you're drawing the reader in, who are going to be on a journey to listen to you while you tell them about a new development in the field, your research, a new theory you have, or your thoughts on an existing theory. So you're going to want to draw them in by putting a little bit of flair to it. So I'm not saying it becomes creative writing, but don't feel everything has to be mechanistic and mechanical.
Thank you for your suggestion, Mr. John. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Long term goals, you said?
Yes, sir.
Long term goals really have to be for you to see this as part of your career for the rest of your life. So you have to determine, yes, this may be my first journal article or second journal article. Maybe I've collaborated with others and I'm the sixth person on somebody else's article. And this is the first one I'm writing by myself or as lead author. but you have to see this as a long game. I encourage everybody to think about developing a website for themselves. So, for instance, when I looked for a website for me, johnbond.com was taken. So I developed one called Books by John Bond, Bond. And so that's the way I was able to have a hub for all of my work. And I'd suggest you, as a researcher or academician, you start to think about yourself having one. It can be your research interest there, a way to connect with others, post your CV, a little bit about yourself, maybe post a couple great pictures while you're at a conference. And then you can start to post the articles that you contribute to, the posters that you've given, like I said, research interest, and perhaps one day a book or books that you may contribute to. This website is relatively easy to create. It is inexpensive, and it should be there for the long term. It should not be about one article about one book, but it really represents your calling card for you for the rest of your career. And that's how you have to see your academic writing and your research career. Think about it as you're taking the first step or one of the beginning steps in a very long journey. I've had the pleasure of knowing many writers, many academicians, many researchers that have had 100, 200, 500, 1,000 writing credits to their name, incredibly enough. And while that may seem like insurmountable to climb that Mount Everest of writing now, they started out by doing it one article, one poster presentation at a time. They were rejected in the past. They were told to be revised in the past. So think about it in that long term sense and really plan for the future of how you're going to write and present yourself and your ideas and research.
Mr. John, looking forward for your goals in life and good luck for that. So, how can this guide benefit both seasoned academics and those new to the academic writing?
I tried to do it very briefly, going back to my comment that brief is better. I tried to break it down in very short chapters that broke the process down into very brief increments. So I think it's very approachable. If you are just going to pick it up and read one chapter at breakfast and read the next chapter at lunch, it's not a long academic tome. So from that point of view, I hope it's very approachable. I tried to take you from step to step, all the way from creation or solidifying your idea through the mechanics of making your first draft and the editing of it, finding peer reviewers, and then targeting specific journals that you should submit to, and then making sure that you conform to their information for authors and what their needs are. And then finally, after you get the great news of publication, then talking a little bit more about promoting your specific article, but then promoting you long term. The guide is suited towards new and mid-career researchers, and I hope that there's one or two things in there that veterans might be interested in, probably more along the line of promoting them work on themselves. But it definitely is geared towards, as it says, simple steps to success, and being able to do it in an incremental fashion and not being overwhelmed by it. I also try to be very positive and encouraging with it as opposed to a doomsayer.
So, Mr. John, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Music 101. In its third season, people, third season, Mr. Mick Smith, Music 101 is created to empower, of course, music itself and legendary icon in the music industry. So please do listen to our latest episode. We are talking about the covers of the Beatles. So please do listen, Music 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. John, if readers take only one key message from your book, what should it be?
If you are in an academic or research career and you are intimidated by the thought or the process of writing, uh, this book helps you to move forward in a step by step fashion, and gives you the confidence and the knowledge you need to write what you are surely capable of doing and to do a quality job with it and to find a venue or an audience or a journal for your writing. I know it's going to happen, and this book helps get that done.
Mr. John Band, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Yes, well, Daniel, first of all, thanks again for everything that you did in your podcast. But I can be found at LinkedIn under my name, riverwindsconsulting.com, and then publishingfundamentals.com. And I'd love to connect with each and every one of you. So I really appreciate your time today and looking forward to connecting. And Daniel, I really appreciate your time and the fine job you do.
You are most welcome, Mr. John, because this podcast is created for you. Yes, people, let's support Mr. John Band, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to see you.
More to come, people. See you soon.